Welcome to the Peaceful Entrepreneur Podcast, where together we're learning how to have peace in the process of everyday business ownership by improving one step at a time how we think and what we do. I'm your host, Amy Stout. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Peaceful Entrepreneur. I am excited to be here with you today and just to continue, honestly, just this real chat series of episodes where I just fill you in on what's been going on in my life. I feel like I have been pretty private lately about what's been going on. I've just been living life and experiencing it and not really sharing a ton. I've gone pretty quiet on social, and I feel like I've just gotten briefer with what I do share. And that's just where I'm at. That's just kind of the stage of life and business that I'm in. I'm experiencing a lot of shifting and changing in personal life and in business. As you know, from our last episode, we shared that we just moved, bought a new home, moved 5 hours away from the community that we've been in since college. And we are kind of starting fresh with our personal life. And simultaneously, we have a lot of shifting going on within our business. All of these things are good, but they are just a lot at once. And so I just wanted to take last episode, this episode, and the next few to just fill you in on what's been going on, because I think that is what I would want to listen to. That is what is apparent to me is the most connective for you and relatable for you and what you probably enjoy listening to. I mean, when you think about it, we all just want to learn from each other. We all just want to know what's going on, how each of us is navigating life, and that is how we build a community and build a connection. And so that is kind of what we're doing over these next few episodes. And so it's just going to be very real. It's just going to be opening up about what has been going on in my brain and in my life. And that's what I want this podcast to be, is just to take the experiences that I have as an entrepreneur and as someone who is pursuing a life where I have an overall peace in my everyday, and take it and share it with you. That is what this space is. And of course, it's also bringing other people into this space and hearing how they're making their life peaceful. But for the next little bit, I think I'm just going to kind of share what's been going on with me, because I've kind of been sharing the guest episodes while I've been going through this other stuff. So now it's time for me to catch you up. So today's episode is about making changes, because there's just some things that have gone on and that I've realized that have prompted me to want to make some changes. I've been telling you basically the entirety of this podcast since it started in February of 23 that I've been dealing with burnout. And a lot of people are like, why did you decide to make a podcast called The Peaceful Entrepreneur? And my answer is because I'm not naturally peaceful, but that's what I'm striving for. And I'm bringing you along the journey of pursuing that and helping you pursue it too, right? And so I'm not the peaceful entrepreneur because my life is always peaceful. And I think I might even be more qualified to speak on pursuing peace because I come from a place of not having it all the time. And so with the burnout, my first season of burnout was in fall of 2022. And that was a time when I had just been operating the business mostly by myself physically, but also probably a lot relying on my own strength and not as much relying on God. And I had just worked myself into the ground and I was worn out and I couldn't keep going. Thankfully, that's when Luke joined and he was able to alleviate a lot of that pressure and stress and start to help me and take on what I was doing. But it happened again a year later. Last winter, I hit burnout again, and that was due to, again, another situation that caused me to fire on all cylinders, step in, and take things into my own control. And again, I was not living in a space where I was surrendering every day to God. I was just trying to fix it all myself. And that thoroughly wore me out both times I tried it. And I just want to pause here and say that, maybe that is something that is exhausting you, is just running and trying to do it all on your own strength. And I know how exhausting it is. And I also know that there is another option. We were not created to be self-sufficient. We were created to have connection and communion with God, who has the ultimate strength. And we have the opportunity and the gift to connect with Him and to draw on His strength. And that is where true peace is going to be found. And that is where true healing from burnout and weariness is going to be found. So last winter was that most recent season of burnout for me. And when I got worn out, I knew I needed to take it easy. And so I took December and I took it easy. I didn't do a ton. I just kind of did the bare minimum and took some time to recover. And that was really good. I think I did recover to a certain degree. And I felt energized to enter into this year and plan for it. And I'm really happy with how I prepared for this year, with setting goals and with establishing a rhythm of planning. And that has worked really, really well for me. But I still have felt this underlying weariness all year. I haven't been able to shake it. And that is what finally prompted me to know that I needed to make some bigger changes. Because when I was burnt out, my response was, okay, I need to take some time, take a break. But then I would just go back to how things were. And therefore, I was still perpetuating the problem to a certain extent. And having just experienced this underlying tiredness and weariness, I have realized, no, that if I'm actually going to solve this problem at the root, there are some changes that need to be made in the structure of my business and in the mindset of how I'm going about operating my business and living my life day to day. So in that time when I was still feeling weary, I was confused. I was like, wait, I took time to rest. Why am I still tired? But what I started to think about that led to the realization of needing to make these changes is a few things. So I realized I was still doing too much, doing too many things. I was able to cut back my work hours, but still, all of the things that I was trying to squish even into the shorter work hours was still a problem. So that's a good example of I kind of solved the problem by working less, but I didn't fully solve it because what I was doing when I was working still wasn't optimal. It was still wearing me out, even if I was doing less of it. And that kind of leads into this next one, which is I wasn't fully operating in my zone of genius. And this is something that I've been learning a lot about. If you want to go back and listen to the episode about personality tests, it's episode 47 if you want to go back and listen to that. But I had been doing some pretty solid, extensive research and spending time learning about different personality tests. And the two that are my favorite are the Working Genius and Strength Finders. And so as I was analyzing my results of those two tests, I was able to more clearly see the types of work tasks that were going to be in my genius and in my strengths and the types that were not. And that helped me further analyze and be like, oh, most of what I'm doing isn't my genius. And that is another big reason that I am wearing out. Because the way the Working Genius frames it is you have two geniuses, two competencies, and two frustrations. So if you're in your geniuses, you're energized, and that's like your ideal place. If you're in your competencies, it's like, okay, you can do these things, but it's not great for them to be the majority of what you're doing for forever, right? And then the frustrations are like the things that you really like, they really, really drain you. So you should probably avoid them as much as you can. So definitely realized that I was in too many competencies and frustrations and not enough genius. Kind of along the same vein, but a little bit different, is I also realized that I have just been in building phase for 3+ years. Because I started my business in January of 2021. I launched it in February, but I started thinking about it and working on it in January. And so now we're pretty much 3.5 years in. I've been building the entire time. And in the midst of that, I started building this podcast. And I just haven't had a phase of just maintenance or like a phase of a break. Like I've just been building in one way or another, basically for the last 3 years. And it's gotten me to a place that I'm really happy with. Like, it wasn't for nothing, right? Like the business that I have now, I'm so grateful for, and I am really happy with how it's set up and how it's running and what it's producing. So I don't want to negate that, but I also recognize that we can't constantly be building. Like we have to have phases of rest and maintenance between the building. So that's definitely something that highly contributed to knowing that I needed to make a change. And the last thing is I knew that I needed not only a different kind of work to fill my time, but also a different kind of rest. Because if the rest that I had taken after my burnout seasons was completely the correct kind of rest, I would be better. But I'm not fully recovered. So I knew I needed to do a different kind of resting, which I'm going to get into more in a later episode, because I know that that's like, what do you mean? I promise I'll get into it, but I'm just going to leave that there for now. Of like, those are the 4 things that led me to realizing I needed to make some changes. And so here's the changes that came out of that. So I was doing too much means I needed to do less, like work less. So we did that already, but I also needed to get more specific with what I spent my time on. And let me just stop really quickly before I keep going with this. I am in the process of making these changes. I haven't actually made these changes yet. So I'm coming to you from a point of I've realized and I've processed what's wrong. I've defined what needs to change, but I have not actually made the changes. So I can't tell you really like how they've worked yet, but I'm excited to do that. But that's I'm like in the middle of the process right now, if that makes sense. So if I've been doing too much and not doing the right things, I need to be more specific with what I do. Along the same lines, if I'm not operating in my genius, I need to eliminate the things that aren't in my genius. So I basically need to revamp my role and my responsibilities and what I am doing in my day-to-day. Secondly, though there is much more building to be done still with this business, with all the business ideas that I have, right? My first business is doing amazing and it's supporting us and it's supporting 5 other people, but also there is more we could do, which I love. This podcast, it is, I know, impacting people just as it is. And that makes me so happy. And I also have more dreams for it. And then I have 2 other business ideas too. And so though the building is not over, I believe that there needs to be a time of break from building. And then lastly, I need that break from building to fully recover and rejuvenate and have that different kind of rest, so that when it is time to build again, I can do it well. Because right now, how I feel is I can see the potential and I can see the directions that we could go for building, but I have absolutely zero energy to actually do it. And I shouldn't try to push through and just keep building if I'm in that space. I need to take a step back, right? I need to take a minute. So that's what I'm going to do. So I think one of the biggest lessons that is coming out of all of this, and like I shared with you, I haven't quite made the changes yet. I'm in the midst of making the changes, but something I knew I needed to do is bring other people into this. One of the biggest lessons that God is teaching me this year is you don't have to do it all by yourself. In fact, you shouldn't try to do it all by yourself. You know, at the beginning of the episode, I was sharing how in my seasons of burnout, I was depending only on my own strength and actions and not enough on God. And He has unlimited strength that I have the opportunity to tap into, and I wasn't. But also, we don't have to do this alone as humans either. Like, God needs to be our first and primary dependence and source of strength. But there's a reason He gives us people. There's a reason He gives us community. And there's a reason that He gifts us all in different ways. I mean, you think about these personality tests. I love them so much because I get to see how everyone is so uniquely and beautifully gifted. It would be a boring world if we were all the same. And so He gives us the gift of being different to all add up and be a more beautiful and comprehensive picture of what God is like. And so I, as a leader and a business owner and a human, am going to be glorifying God by bringing other people into what I'm doing that have different gifts and that can see things from a different perspective and can input in different ways than I could. And that is such a good thing. I think that as entrepreneurs, online entrepreneurs, those who started a business during the pandemic, far too easily default to just doing it by ourselves, thinking that we're alone. We will not find success that way. We will only wear out. And I am here to really encourage you to think about the ways that you're trying to do it by yourself, where you really don't have to be. Whether that's inviting God in or whether that's inviting other people in or both, just think about that today. That's what I've been thinking about. And so that is just my encouragement today, is to think about how you can bring other people into your life and into your situation that will make it better. And of course, working with people comes with its own complications, but it's worth it. We were created to be together in community and to work together. And so that is what I am basically on the journey of pursuing now, is bringing other people into what I'm doing in a different way than I have before. I have not been afraid to bring in people to do the client work for me so that I can manage everything else. But making hires aside from contractors to do client work is not something that I have started doing until the last few months, and it's already making a huge difference. I know it's going to make an immense difference. I'm excited to see what happens. And so for the next few episodes, that's what I'm going to be revealing to you, is who I've been hiring to help me. And then after I share that, I'll be sharing what I'm going to be doing now that I've hired these roles. Because that's everyone's question, is like, what are you going to do with your time? I'm like, oh, sister, I got some plans. So I will share about that as well. And so basically I'm going to be kind of following up on all these things that I've tossed out there today and sharing practically how I'm solving those problems and how it's been. And I can't wait to, in a few months, be like, guys, this is what's changed. This is what's worked out. This is what's been good. And this is what didn't work. I'm going to be happy to share all of it, because again, that's just what business is always going to be, up and downs. Life is going to be up and downs. It's not all going to be perfect. So I just want to take some time just to encourage you today, and this is really just talking to myself, but like, hey, you have a lot of things that you're really good at. That doesn't mean you're good at everything. There are going to be people out there that are better at certain things than you. And it's not productive, and it's completely pointless to just be jealous of them or to put them down because of that. It's the differences are a gift, and God does that on purpose. And we will be living life so much more fully if we tap into and embrace and enjoy and appreciate the different giftings that everybody has. And truly, it will open us up and our businesses up to way more potential than they ever could have if it was just us. So that's what I'm going to leave you with today. I'm really excited to continue sharing this journey with you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to spend some time with me. I really, really enjoy sharing with you. I really, really enjoy hearing back from you. If you're not on my email list, that's where I primarily communicate because social media just is not my jam right now. And I'm not going to force it to be. So I pop up on social media. I do. But I'm going to primarily be sharing through email and of course through these episodes. These are the heart of everything. And so I just thank you for being here. I thank you for sharing this with your friends, sharing it on your stories. If there is ever anything that strikes you that you think would be encouraging to someone else, it would mean the world for you to pass on the link. And I'm excited to just continue to reach people, continue to encourage people, share my life, share my faith, and build this community together of all pursuing more peace as entrepreneurs. So thank you for listening today, and I will be back next week. See you then. Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode. Don't forget to connect with us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and we would love it if you would leave a review wherever you're listening. We'll see you next week for more tips for how to become a peaceful entrepreneur.